Inside Cowboys training camp presented by Ford here from Oxnard, California, the River Ridge practice field. Alongside Nick Eatman, I'm Kyle Youmans filling in for Nicole Hutchison today. And Nick, another week of practice is now in the rearview mirror for the Cowboys. 7 practices down, wrapping up with really an intense practice yesterday on these fields behind us. And they got to see a lot of youth and a lot of physicality at the same time wrapping up the week.
Yeah, anytime the pads come on, it's a chance to really get all 91 players, or at least every player that's out there, a true evaluation of what's going on. And before that, when they don't have the pads on, you see who can catch it and who can throw it. But now when the pads come on, the linebackers, the running backs, of course the offensive, defensive line, you really see who's mixing it up and doing what they're asked to do. So it's not football all the way, no tackling, but it is a good evaluation of what we can expect these guys to do.
And Mike McCarthy talked about it. These are some of the toughest practices in the intersection between installs, getting that playbook up to speed, everybody getting that studying done in the classrooms here in Oxnard, but then taking it out to the field and putting the pads on. So that install and then the pad work are both things that have made these practices tougher. He said he wanted to push some of these younger players. Well, one young player, second-year offensive tackle, Awesome Richards, got an opportunity with no Tyler Guyton, no Chuma Adoga. Both were unavailable for Saturday's practice. He had all the first-team reps, and I thought he did a really nice job. What did you see from him?
Agreed. I thought he was awesome, just with the opportunity that he got, and that's what these young guys have to do. It doesn't matter when they ask you to get out there and do something, you have to step up, and I thought he did that, especially because there's a lot of question marks about the offensive line. Think about being a draft pick from last year, then going and seeing them draft 3 offensive linemen in the draft. Nate Thomas being one, of course, Guyton and Beebe. Yeah. So when that happens, the alarm's got to go off in their head of like, wait a second, when I get a chance, I've got to do something. I thought Richards did a nice job.
And another name to keep an eye on, another second-year guy, Jalen Cropper at the wide receiver position, trying to make the roster as a late-round wide receiver or an undrafted wide receiver at any point is a tough task. That is certainly the case with the Cowboys. There's only about 5 or 6 spots available, and most of those are already taken. Tyron Billy Johnson has stolen the headlines. Do you think Cropper can maybe close that gap a bit?
Yeah, he's got to be. He's the third best Jalen wide receiver on the team right now between Tolbert and Brooks. But still, he is closing the gap a little bit. And I think it's going to be interesting when the games come on because, Tyron Billy Johnson is a guy that everyone's talked about, and rightfully so. Got like great speed. But we've seen it before. Even for Brooks last year, he was all world out here, and then the games happened in preseason, and he kind of tapered off. So who steps up when the games come on, when they're really tackling, when they're really jamming at the line of scrimmage? Let's see if Cropper is that guy that does that when the games come on.
And, of course, we're just 1 week away from the preseason opener as the Cowboys travel to SoFi Stadium and take on the Rams next Sunday. We'll have plenty more about that later in the week, but when we come back, I want to talk defensive backs. We just mentioned Jalen Cropper. We mentioned Tyron Billy Johnson, but some of those corners have stepped up over these last few practices. More Inside Cowboys Training Camp coming your way next.
Inside Cowboys Training Camp, presented by Ford, is brought to you by AT&T, official sponsor of the Dallas Cowboys. Sleep Number, the official sleep and wellness partner of the Dallas Cowboys. And by your North Texas Ford dealers. Ford is the best in Texas. This segment is brought to you by Academy Sports and Outdoors, official sporting goods retailer of the Dallas Cowboys.
Welcome back into Inside Cowboys Training Camp presented by Ford here from Oxnard. Wanted to talk a little bit about the defensive back position. Lots of credit to Mike Zimmer, Al Harris. That position group has been really impressive through the first 2 weeks of practice of Training Camp 2024. And let's start with the starters. Yeah. Jordan Lewis and Deron Bland have really been phenomenal to this point in camp. Nahshon Wright's had some ups and some downs. What have you seen from the group overall?
Well, you mentioned Al Harris and the way he played when he was in the NFL. He was just a guy that competes all the time, and just from a toughness standpoint, really smart. And that's what you see out of these guys. Nahshon Wright, you mentioned him. This is a huge opportunity for him. 4th season for him, and they've drafted some other guys behind him. He's getting that opportunity, but like you said, Bland just keeps doing Deron Bland things, intercepting passes, and it just trickles down because when the younger guys get in there and really, have their time to shine, they're doing so as well. So a lot of good competition. Now remember, there's no CeeDee Lamb on the other side, but still, the guys that they are facing, they're doing a nice job.
Let's talk about one of those young guys. Kalen Carson, 5th-round pick out of Wake Forest this past year. He's maybe been the 3rd best corner in practice so far without Trayvon Diggs, of course. He's been better than right a lot of the times, and he's earned some first-team reps because of it.
Yeah, and when they drafted him, it was a situation of, is he better? Do they think he's going to be better than the guy they drafted last year in the 6th round of Eric Scott?
Yeah.
And they kind of felt like, yeah, he has a chance to do a little bit more. Now we see him out here, and he is. He's kind of already past Eric Scott and some others, gets first-team reps, and he's not afraid of anything. I mean, that guy, he gets beat every now and again. He's not afraid, though. He mixes it up. He got into a fight last week with one of the tight ends who's like 7 foot tall. So, I mean, he's not afraid of anybody, and I think he's doing a really good job.
Before we go to break, what is one guy or where is one guy that you want to keep an eye on in terms of that defensive back position?
I like 38, Josh DeBerry. He's
okay.
a rookie from Texas A&M / Boston College. His 4 years at Boston College. I really like what he's doing. He's undersized, but he's also scrappy. He's a guy that looks like, oh, you gave up a pass, and then he puts his hand in there and knocks the ball away. So that's a credit to him. Receivers got to hang on to the ball, but he's really good at getting his hands in there and with some pass breakups. So I like Josh DeBerry. He's a guy I want to keep an eye on.
There's a couple of Aggies in that secondary
Yeah.
that have had some success. Donovan Wilson back
you go.
there as well. When we come back, let's talk about Brock Hoffman. He's really stolen the show in terms of the center position and the battle at hand. More Inside Cowboys training camp right after this.
This segment was brought to you by Academy Sports and Outdoors, official sporting goods retailer of the Dallas Cowboys.
I've kind of talked about it over this week with some other people in the media. I feel like, everything that I've gone through in my football journey all the way from when I was in high school has led to this point, and I've gone through some highs and some lows. I faced a lot of adversity along the way, but I think it's just, prepared me mentally to be ready for this.
There you heard from Brock Hoffman, presented by Sleep Number, speaking about the mental toughness to go along with the physical toughness we've seen on the field throughout training camp so far. As we wrap up Inside Cowboys training camp, presented by Ford, alongside Nick Eatman, I'm Kyle Youmans. That toughness is on display. They thought it was Brock Hoffman, Cooper Beebe going into the week, and coming out of it, it seems like he's far and away the starter so far.
Well, yeah, he's putting some distance there with anybody else, and Dakota Shepley is also in that mix. But Hoffman, like you said, there's more to the center position than just snapping the ball. You got to make the calls for the most part, and then you got to block your guy as well in the shotgun snaps or whatever the snaps are. And he's gone through, like you said there, he's gone through some ups and downs in his career. It's been he's kind of been a journeyman, if you will, but his confidence has always been there. And even last year, at a couple of games he played, I mean, it just oozes out of him. He's one of those guys that's been at the Star in Frisco every single day in the offseason, and it's showing here. So he's the front runner by far to be the starting center.
Well, and it seems like this team really lost some toughness up front, lost a glass eater in Tyler Biadasz last year. I think Brock Hoffman might be a step up even in that category just because of the toughness that he shows, and he's not afraid of anybody either.
And he talked to Biadasz, he said, for like an hour and a half the other day. He's in Washington right now, hopefully not trading secrets or anything
let's not
like
do that.
But still, just it seemed like a guy that he looked up to, and now he's getting an opportunity to jump there. But let's watch out. Cooper Beebe, I mean, he's still learning some things as well, and he's 5-time All-Academic at Kansas State, and also was a mauler, so he's going to figure it out too, and I think he'll close the gap.
Well, and Cooper Beebe's getting first-team reps when Zach Martin's not available at right guard. So the blocking is there. They feel like he's pro-ready in that regard. It's the snaps that have to come back in, and mostly shotgun snaps. He had one fumble yesterday against Cooper Rush, or with Cooper Rush, in a quarterback sneak scenario. So overall, things continuing to develop here in Oxnard, and we'll have you covered all week long on Inside Cowboys Training Camp, again presented by Ford. Going to wrap things up today for Nick Eatman. I'm Kyle Youmans. We will see you tomorrow from the West Coast.
Inside Cowboys Training Camp, presented by Ford, was brought to you by AT&T, official sponsor of the Dallas Cowboys. Sleep Number, the official sleep and wellness partner of the Dallas Cowboys. And by your North Texas Ford dealers. Ford is the best in Texas.